What's up, folks? This is Tony Brewer. You're listening to or watching, as the case may be, Cogitations. Cogitations is the podcast where we think about things, we contemplate them, we turn them over in our minds, we discuss them. Daniel chapter 7, verse 28, Daniel writes, "Hitherto is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my cogitations much troubled me. My countenance changed in me, but I kept the matter in my heart." And we're not going to keep the matter in our heart. We're going to talk about it. Today we're going to talk about straightforwardness, being plain spoken, just speaking right out of the front of your mouth. It does something very interesting. Here is, and it took me a while to narrow this down. Ooh, I can see now. Ain't that awesome? Oh, sorry for those of you who don't watch the video, just listen. I was washing or wiping my glasses. As Restream and such is building our audience. Well, hello, Missy Malone. Good to see you. So when Restream's building our audience and such, well, look, wherever you're watching, please like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Please consider going to Substack and subscribing there. It took me a while to articulate this. It's been on my mind a while. Here's the key concept. So I'm gonna walk through some of these. This has been months and months building. People who operate in environments that reward subtlety and manipulation often develop a hyper-awareness of subtext, motives, and hidden meanings. When faced with someone who says what they mean and means what they says and means only what they say, it dismantles or disrupts their internal schema for how communication works. It's like they feel like they're talking to an alien. They don't know what to do. Watch for over-analysis whenever you're speaking with somebody. If you're somebody that speaks right out of the front of their mouth, who is straightforward, watch for over-analysis whenever you're speaking to somebody. Suspicion or even outright distrust of someone who is plain spoken. The discomfort often manifests as skepticism. What is their angle? Nobody is that straightforward. I just don't trust what they say. I've run up against that in my life. Okay, I get it. It can't be. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, no, I don't mean anything by that. I mean exactly what I say. Whenever arguments happen, I watch Jordan Peterson and Kathy Newman. Anyway, this has been years ago, and he would say something that was so very straightforward. And she would say, "So what you're saying is," and I'll give you an example. He made the point about the disparity of pay on average whenever you just look all across, or look at across all women and look across all men in Western culture. There's a disparaging, there's a, what, why can't I talk? A discrepancy, a differentiation, a difference of about 30%. Now, that's a fact. What do you do with that, though? Well, you've got to think about it. So Jordan Peterson says, look, the pay difference is not because of patriarchal sexism. The pay difference is because women choose for different things than men choose for, and the things that women choose for are not as monetizable at scale as the things that men choose for. So just right there, that alone, that basic biological function, that difference between men and women, women are going to have lower pay across the board. It's just all there is to it. Kathy Newman said, "So what you're saying is that women don't deserve the same pay as men." Jordan Peterson was just being straightforward. The only thing Jordan Peterson meant by what he said is you can't explain the pay gap by sexism. That's it. Because that's what he said. He said, look, you take all of the money that men and women make, and there's a 70% pay gap in favor of the man. That's not sexism. That's because at a base level, women and men choose for different things. The things men choose, the things men prioritize are monetizable at scale more than the things women choose for. And of course, she took it and she just didn't understand how people could be that straightforward. And the whole interview was like that. And I've dealt with people where, for instance, if I say, you cannot get into heaven, you cannot be delivered out of the power of darkness and translated into the kingdom of God's dear Son, Colossians 1:13, if you're not baptized. Oh, so what you're saying is I have to earn my salvation and God hates me because he's making me work for it, and you're saying salvation is not a free gift. It's not what I'm saying at all. So you're saying Jesus' work wasn't finished on the cross. No, that's not what I'm saying at all. Listen to what I'm saying. In flaming fire, taking vengeance on all those who know not God and have not obeyed the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Well, baptism is part of obeying the gospel. Ergo, therefore, whatever word you want to put in, you can't be saved without obeying the gospel, so you can't be saved without being baptized. You see how that works. So, what happens is whenever you are straightforward and you meet somebody like this, it causes them to be anxious because they feel like they're out of control. Anxiety arises because these tools that these individuals rely on, which is decoding unspoken cues, reading between the lines, they become useless. They feel out of control because they are left with nothing to interpret and manipulate. Now, there's some observable behavior that you can see. Notice when you speak to somebody and you're just being straightforward and they're reading more into your speech than what you put. Nervous laughter, awkward pauses. When the straightforward person speaks, the person that's not will be anxious, and that will produce awkward pauses, laughter, the guillotine laugh. You'll feel like that person is trying to draw out hidden meanings where none exist. And you'll get reactions. Sometimes it's just as blatant as, well, I don't know if I can trust them, or it feels too simple to be true. And when you get to that stage, you need to understand its roots in the psyche. This discomfort stems from a learned behavior. Years of navigating complex, duplicitous environments sometimes, where directness is rare and is often viewed as a strategy rather than just genuine honesty. The straightforward person challenges the framework of the individual that has built their social understanding upon ebbs and flows and nuance, and it's just speak right out of the front of your mouth. Don't be duplicitous. These individuals that are like that, again, they have these social understandings built around these frameworks, and the straightforward person just goes in and guts that. Observable behavior, defensive posturing, such as doubling down on cynicism. Everyone has an agenda. Everybody lies. Everybody's out for their own good. Everybody's out to get you. Or patronizing dismissal. Well, they're straightforward, but they just don't understand how the world works. Well, they're straightforward. You can trust what they say, but they're just naive. And they have to be that way. They have to be that way. What's going on, Gold Trap? Incidentally, Terry Crooks, good to see you as well. So, how to articulate it? Now that we've talked about it, let's articulate it. I'm going to read a segment from Book 11 of The Wheel of Time. Now, the thumbnail, obviously, artificial intelligence cannot render copyrighted images, but it can render images as you describe them, and you can kind of see that. That's a knight sitting on a horse. That horse is a dun horse. This is Perrin Aybara on the left with the hammer. The hammer doesn't have a wolf The hammer's supposed to have a wolf. Anyway, let me set the scene. In this Wheel of Time series, there's the Dark One and the Creator. It is a world that is set in it's a theistic world. It's they do have a creator, but the creator has said, "Okay, I've created. Go handle your business." Without getting in deep into the lore, there's some very interesting things. The creator never gets directly involved, but the creator has set up rules and safeguards to make sure that the earth continues and the forces of light are protected and the forces of darkness are defeated. Okay, one of the enemies of the light, one of the grunts of the forces of darkness, are called Trollocs. And picture a human being, maybe 7 or 8 feet tall. I mean, they're hulking and big. Yeah, maybe less than that. Maybe they're like 7 feet tall, between 6 and 7 feet tall. I'd have to go back and look. I can't remember. The author Robert Jordan does a really good job of making them feel foreboding. But anyway, they're twisted, misshapen. They're like cross between humans and animals, like pervert, not anything sexually, but just they were made using the magic system, and they're perversions of what is good. Okay, they have no redeeming qualities about them whatsoever. They are, in truth, this world's literary equivalent of orcs from The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. All right, getting into it now. This is far into the series. This is book 13. So if you ever think that you're going to read the Wheel of Time series and you don't want this spoiler, because what I'm about to read is a heavy spoiler, I'm going to read a section of this book. So what has happened is, spoilers now, listen at your own risk. What has happened is Perrin Aybara, we'll call him Perrin, he and 2 other young boys were targeted by the Dark One, and they had to flee their village. And for the last 3 years, they've been hounded by Dark Friends and Shadow Spawn, Shadow Souled, all kinds of different baddies. All 3 of the boys have greatly raised their station. Perrin is now Lord Perrin Golden Eyes, and he has golden eyes because he can speak to wolves. Either that, or he can speak to wolves because he's got golden eyes. The book is not forthcoming in this. This is just something from an age past that is resurfaced again. So Perrin run afoul very early in the series. Like, this is book 1. Perrin run afoul of the quote-unquote white cloaks, as they're called. They're called Children of the Light, but they are an very, how do you put it? Think of that Baptist church as some of our boys was coming home from war that were spitting on and talking about how terrible the troops were. Think about how at the how they what was it, the West Side or what, Westview Baptist Church, whatever it was. Think about those people. Like, I can't even repeat some of the things, the vitriol they would say, but there's magic users in this world. Let me get back to this. There's magic users in this world called Aes Sedai, and they use the one power. And the Children of Light consider them witches. They're evil, this, that, and the other, and they are just a very bigoted, prejudiced, hateful group. Okay. Perrin, in book 1, kills 2 Children of the Light. Now, they were going to kill him, but they have this vengeful vendetta against Perrin, and they catch up with him in book 13. Now, long story short, I'm going to read. Perrin stands trial for the murder of 2 Children of the Light. This is 2 years into the future. Perrin stands trial for the murder of 2 Children of the Light, and through a weird turn of events, he's found guilty, but his sentencing is given to Galad Damodred, the leader of the Children of the Light, who happens to be the son of Morghese Trakan, which is the queen of Andor, And Galad is a good character. He's lawful good. I'll talk about those in a moment. But Galad is torn. He's like, I don't understand. This man is not who I thought he was. But yet he still was found guilty of the murder of 2 children of the light. And so Morgay says, you have the right, I will give you the right to sentence him. And you can sentence him up to including death. So Perrin says, look, the last battle is coming. I will submit to your decision, but only after the last battle. Tamarin Gaidon, the final showdown with the Dark One. And so they say, okay, that's good. So the children of the light flee, but then Perrin thinks, well, wait a second, this has been a trap. We've been herded like sheep. And now the trap is sprung, and it's up to Perrin to go rescue the children of the light. They do. Now let me start reading here. This is from this is book 13, Towers of Midnight of the Wheel of Time, and I believe the chapter is 41, An Unexpected Ally. The chapter is from pages 463 or 640. Come on, Tony. 634 to 861. Incidentally, this is only 65% of the book finished, according to my Kindle. All right, here we go. Incidentally, Midral are shadow spawn, and they are extremely deadly, and they're the leaders of the Trollocs. And so if you kill a Midral, a lot of times a bunch of Trollocs die, but not so often. But Midral are sword masters. They're really freaky. It's a really good book, by the way. Really good series. All right. Let's see. Hold on a second. I'm just going to start reading in this. So the dying monster crashed down on him, pinning him to the ground. Pain shot up his leg, but he ignored it. This is Galad. He dropped his sword, trying to shove the carcass free. That's a Trolloc that he killed. Bornhald, which is one of the children of the light, swearing, fended off a Trolloc that had the snout of a boar. It made a horrid grunting sound. Galad heaved off the stinking carcass to the side. He could see men in white, Trom with Byre at his side, fighting desperately to reach Galad. There were so many Trollocs, and those children immediately nearby had mostly fallen. Galad reached for his sword just as a mounted figure burst through the shadows, and Trollocs just to the north. Aybara! He rode up and pounded that massive hammer of his into a boar Trolloc, sending it crashing to the ground. Aybara leapt off his horse as Bornhald scrambled over to help Galad to his feet. You are wounded? Asked Aybara. My ankle, Galad said. On my horse, Aybara said. Now keep in mind, these men are enemies. Well, Galad is Perrin's enemy. Galad has the power of Perrin's life in his hands because he's been found guilty. Galad didn't protest. It made sense. He did, however, feel embarrassed as Bornhald helped him up. Aybara's men filled in around them, pushing the Trollocs back. Now that Aybara's army had joined the fray, Galad's men were rallying. Rushing down the slope had been a dangerous gamble, but as soon as Galad was astride Aybara's horse, he could see that the gamble had worked. The massive charge had broken the Trollocs apart, and some groups started fleeing. Tongues of flame fell from above, burning Midral. Those are the channelers on Perrin's side, the magic users. Tongues of flame fell from above, burning Midral and dropping entire fists of Trollocs linked to them. There was still a great deal of fighting to do, but the battle was turning. Aybara's forces carved out a section of ground around their leader, giving him, and by extension Galad, some breathing room to consider the next stage of attack. Galad turned to Aybara, who was studying the Trollocs with keen eyes. Here's our point of interest. I assume you think that saving me will influence my decision about your judgment, Galad said. It had better, Aybara muttered. Galad raised an eyebrow. It wasn't the response he'd been expecting. Galad says, my men find it suspicious that you appeared so soon before the Trollocs. Well, they can think that if they want, Aybara said. I doubt anything I say will change their minds. In a way, this is my fault. The Trollocs were here to kill me. I just got away before they could spring their trap. Be glad I didn't leave you to them. You white cloaks have caused me enough trouble, or you white cloaks have caused me nearly as much grief as they have. White cloaks are the pejorative term that people not children of the light call the children of the light. Oddly, Galad found himself smiling. There was a straightforward air about this Perrin Aybara. A man could ask for little more in an ally. Are we allies then? Galad thought, nodding to Trom and Byre as they approached. Perhaps for now. He did trust Aybara. Yes, perhaps there were men in the world who would put together an intricate plot like this one, all to trick his way into Galad's favor. Valda had been like that. Aybara wasn't. He really was straightforward. If he'd wanted the children out of his way, he'd have killed them and moved on. Then so be it, Perrin Aybara, Galad said. I name your punishment here this night at this moment. Perrin frowned, turning away from his contemplation of the battle lines. What? Now? I deem as punishment that you pay blood price to the families of the dead children of the light in the amount of 500 crowns. I also order you to fight in the last battle with all the strength you can muster. Do these things, and I pronounce you cleansed of guilt. It was an odd time for him to give this proclamation, but he had made his decision. They would still fight, and perhaps one would fall. Galad wanted Aybara to know the judgment in case. Aybara studied him, then nodded. I named that fair, Galad Damodred. He held up his hand. Folks, I don't know, I hope y'all liked that as much as I did, but anyway, I really enjoy the books. Uh-oh. This ain't no good. Did I delete? Huh, okay. Now, there's my outline for the rest of it. So, keep in mind with what happened. This man did a selfless act that arguably could have come back to bite him in the rear in a very bad way. But he did what was right because what was right is important to be done. I think it's interesting that, well, for instance, Galad would be considered what's called a lawful good alignment. He's honorable, he's dutiful, and he's disciplined. Characters like Daniel, I'm gonna have to make this bigger. I can't see. Characters like Daniel, who obeyed the law of the land when it did not conflict with God's commands, but prioritized divine law when necessary. So that's a biblical parallel. Daniel's a very good one. Our alignment should be lawful good. We have to follow the laws of the land. There are people who are chaotic good. Chaotic good follows a character or a person that is chaotic good, follows their conscience and pursues good through personal freedom rather than societal rules. They often challenge oppressive systems for traditions in the name of justice and liberty. Jesus was a chaotic good. Yes, he followed the law of Moses, but he bucked the societal system. That's why they killed him. All right? Robin Hood would be a chaotic good. Robin Hood, he robbed the government and gave to the citizenry. I don't like framing that he robbed to the rich and gave to the poor. Robin Hood did not rob from the rich and give to the poor. Robin Hood robbed the government and gave the people back the taxes that had been stolen from them. So that's chaotic good. Uh, Lawful good, neutral good, chaotic good. I believe Galad is lawful good. Now, the problem is the children of the light are chaotic good, but they are misinformed and misguided. They think that people who are chaotic good typically prioritize which good they want to extol. The people who are chaotic good are people that will kill one or two people to save 100. Does that make sense? Anyway, obey the laws of the land, especially when driving. Ain't that the truth? So, um, I have I have some stuff here. So this dynamic between Galad Damodred and Perrin Aybara in the Wheel of Time, it offers of exploration of how straightforwardness and integrity disarm those accustomed to duplicity. I've set the stage. Galad was a noble raised in court life, and he had a black and white view of good and evil, which made him uniquely receptive to the Children of the Light's message. Well, he meets a man, Perrin, whose words are as plain as his actions. When Galad accuses when Galad accuses Perrin of manipulating events, Perrin bluntly replies, "Well, they can think what they want. I doubt anything I say will change their minds." Notice he didn't say, "No, they're wrong." It doesn't matter. A lot of times we have to adopt that. When in fact something just come into my mind. Peter writes about acting in such a way that it puts to shame people who are saying bad things about us. So again, Perrin acknowledges the grievance of the white cloaks without attempting subtle persuasion. It leaves Galad unsettled. Galad's mistrust stems from his environment where every word carries hidden meaning, but he finds himself drawn to Perrin's clarity. Notice Matthew 5:37. This Perrin epitomizes, "Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay." Jesus teaches this, but let your communication be yea, yea, and nay, nay, for whatsoever is more of these cometh of evil. And that doesn't mean it's against the law of God for you to swear. It's against the law of God for you to swear and not follow through with it. The problem is, what is your life? It is but a vapor. You don't have any control over your life. So if you swear, you are claiming that you have control over your life. It's much better to just say, just be straightforward. My name's Tony, and tomorrow at noon, I'm going to be on the show. Well, Tony, do you swear? No, I don't swear. But what if something comes up I can't be on the show? But I will tell you this. You know, if you don't see me tomorrow between 12 and 1, you know something came up that was more important here. That's how it happens. Straightforward speech is the hallmark of godly character. Whenever somebody starts telling me how trustworthy they are, that's whenever I start understanding how little you can trust them. So let's talk about integrity as a guiding light. Proverbs 11:3. The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of the transgressors shall destroy them. Perrin's integrity becomes a guiding force in his interaction with Galad, earning Galad's respect. Despite the initial suspicion, Perrin's actions align with his words, demonstrating how integrity fosters trust in a deceitful world. The Bible consistently upholds integrity as foundational. Integrity has to be a foundational virtue, even when the world rewards cunning, subtlety, craftiness, duplicity. You see, the world wants to control everything. Christians know they don't control anything. Christians should be much less anxious than a Christian mind should be much less anxious than a worldly mind. Listen to what Paul writes. 1 Corinthians 2:14, but the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned. Now let me make a point here. I don't have enough time to put this in its context. While this verse in its context specifically talks about inspiration, there is something to consider whenever you bring this to a 21st century application. If I'm not spiritually minded, if I live in a world where my mind is duplicitous, where I am carnally minded, I'm going to miss the Bible. I'm going to miss large swaths of the Bible. I have to be spiritually minded. I have to have a mind of Christ. I have to think. I have to reason, and I have to trust the way Christ would want me to trust. Now, that's not magic. That's not anything that the Holy Spirit does. That's something you do, because you have to gird up the loins of your mind. You have to plow the fallow ground of your heart. So whenever you're carnally minded, you're not going to be able to understand the Bible. You're going to miss it. When I say you're not going to be able, it's not that there's a barrier to your understanding that is supernatural that you, through your own power and volition, cannot overcome. There is a barrier to your understanding the Bible that you yourself have set up, and with a thought, with a decision, you can tear down. So that's why I use 1 Corinthians 2:14 here. You see, Galad's discomfort with Perrin's honesty mirrors the reaction of worldly people. I'm gonna change that verse. I just thought of another verse that would be better here. I'm gonna have to go find it, but yeah, I'm glad I did this podcast instead of just releasing this as an article. Anyway, Galad's discomfort with Perrin's honesty mirrors the world's reaction to the godly principles of the Bible. They think it's foolishness. They think it's nonsense. Why in the world would you deny yourself the pleasures of the flesh? They don't understand it. It makes them uncomfortable. Straightforwardness can seem foolish or suspicious in a world where duplicity is the norm. In modern context, individuals who speak plainly and act with integrity often face skepticism. It's because the people of the world can't wrap their mind around it. Perrin's honesty ultimately demonstrates the trustworthiness of biblical principles in actions. That's why these people have anxiety around Christians. And quite frankly, they overthink the motives of people. Well, I wonder why he did that. There's a logical exercise that tests your rationale. Picture with me, you're in a vehicle with me, and we're driving down a neighborhood. There's driveways to the left and to the right, and we can just keep driving forever in this neighborhood. Well, we're following a car, and the car, the left turn signal is on. What does that mean? Well, in normal everyday parlance, we would say, yeah, that means the car's getting ready to turn. If you're being specific, that's not what that means. You have assumed motive. The fella could have just hit his blinker on accident. The fella could be mistaken, and his turn is on the next block, and he just turned his blinker on, decided not to turn it off till he got to the next block. You see, whenever you're following a car and their blinker's on, the only thing that you can know for certain that means is it means that the blinker is on. That's it. Don't overthink motives. Ecclesiastes 7:29 observes, "Lo, this only have I found, that God hath made man upright, but they sought out many inventions." Galad's initial suspicion of Perrin stems from an inclination to overanalyze and assume hidden motives. The tendency to what's wrong? I can't talk. The tendency to expect complexity is a human invention, not a divine quality. Christians are called to accept straightforwardness at face value, aligning with God's design for uprightness. Assuming the worst about others damages relationships and reflects a lack of godly virtues and a lack of trust. The answer to this is just walk in the light. In John 3, 20 through 21, Jesus says, "For everyone that doeth evil hateth light, neither cometh to the light, lest his deeds should be reproved or exposed. But he that doeth truth come to the light, and that his deeds may be made manifest, that they are wrought in God." John 3, 20 through 21. Perrin's directness, folks, reflects walking in the light, as his words and his actions are transparent and devoid of deceit. Galad's eventual respect for Perrin underscores the power of living and speaking with integrity. Christians are called upon to embody truth and honesty, obeying and glorifying God through transparent living. Which brings us to the wisdom, then, of simplicity. James 3:17 describes wisdom from above as first pure, then peaceable, gentle, easy to be entreated, full of mercy, good fruits, without partiality, without hypocrisy. Well, Perrin's straightforwardness exemplifies the wisdom that is from above, as his honesty is pure and without hypocrisy. His approach cuts through Galad's distrust and lays the foundation for mutual respect. So, this interaction between Galad, Damodred, and Perrin Aybara illustrates biblical principles of straightforwardness and integrity. Galad's journey from mistrust to respect mirrors the process of recognizing godly straightforwardness. Perrin's example shows how honesty and integrity foster trust and reflect the character of Christ. As Christians, we must embody these virtues, speaking plainly and living with integrity to glorify God in a world that desperately needs truth. Folks, that's all I have for today. Let's just speak right out of the front of our mouths. Let's say what we mean and mean what we say and mean everything we say and no more than what we say. This is a hard one. I believe one of our listeners not long ago asked a question about resentment. In fact, I answered the question and I clipped it. Hold on just a second. I'm going to put the link. That's serendipitous. I'm glad I did that. All right. Let's go to Christianity Now Streams. Let's go to Vidya's. Can humility shine through challenges? I'm going to share this by copying the link. Bear with me. I'm going to put it in the comment section. So here it is. Hopefully you're able to watch this video. I really enjoyed it, and it looks like a lot of other people did. It's our first video that got 200 views. Excuse me. It's our first video that got over 100 views. I'm glad I checked. That didn't sound right as soon as I said it. I promise I didn't lie. I just mistaken. Anyway, the question was asked that had to do with resentment. Resentment only comes from judging other people's motives. Now, it's okay to judge other people's motives. You may have enough information to do that. You cannot navigate this life without judging motives. If you don't ever think about motives, you don't ever discern motive, then somebody will kill you or very, very close to it. You will meet a malevolent force and you will be changed for the worse for the rest of your life. You cannot get through this life without discerning motive, and because you're not God, your discernment is going to be a very, very well-informed guess at the most, unless somebody tells you. Now, the reason I say that is because very long time ago, I'm 47 now, a few years ago, it dawned on me that all these people that were out here trying to figure out what they could do and what they could not do as a Christian were not just trying to figure out how much they could get away with and still be in God's good graces. They were trying to live out John 10:10. Jesus came that they might have life and they might have it more abundantly. I think most people I think the way I judge people's motives is this person is, if it's a Christian, this person in Christ is wanting to enjoy the life that Jesus died in order to give them, while also not doing anything Jesus would find displeasing. Whenever I plug that into my schema, into my outline, into my understanding of life and the way I interact with it, all of that resentment stuff just melted away. And you're just able to speak straightforward. You just speak the truth and you follow it up with, if you got a set of ears, this is for you. And so that's it. Just speak straightforward. Don't judge people's motives. Ascribe to them the motive of, I want to live the best life that I can on this earth while not doing anything to displease my maker. And I think if you can embody that, at least what I've found, as I meet some of these people, I love going downtown Moncton. And I talk to all the people that are out and about. A lot of weed smoke in the air, a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs. But you just go talk to these people. I think I've made some inroads. And somebody said, well, why are you talking to us? You're a Christian, and we're just supposed to be dirt to you. I said, you ain't dirt to nobody. I said, you came from dirt. Everybody did. But you're loved. Your life is valuable. I don't approve of your lifestyle. There's a better way to live. I said all that. There was a mutual respect there. I said what needed to be said while I'm treating these people with a modicum of respect and dignity that is befitting people made in God's images. In God's image. So anyway, that's maybe I didn't have the big applicable punch that I thought I did, but I hope you found this at least half as interesting as I did. I highly suggest reading Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time, and Brandon Sanderson, The Way, the Stormlight Archive. The Way of Kings is the first book. Well, folks, let's do some housekeeping stuff. Remember, go to subscribe to Christianity Now on Substack. You can also, I'm going to, if you want to send us something directly, you can send it to P.O. Box 99900 HR 567317 RPO Mountain Road, Moncton, New Brunswick E1C0T1. And if you don't want to write that down, send us an email to request the address at www.christianityisnow@gmail.com. You can also, for show topics and questions, send an email. We also would like for you to consider following us on Twitter, on X, also known as Twitter, Christianity Now at 1 Chronicles 1232. That's Christianity Now at 1 Chronicles 1232. It blows my mind that we've got 58 or 59 followers on Twitter. That's just the coolest thing. We're not focused on Twitter. We're just, in fact, I don't even think anybody's watching us on Twitter. No, we got 3 people watching us on Twitter, on X. That's awesome. Guys, for those of you that's watching on X, won't you give us a subscribe and a share? Cool. All right. Or a follow and a share. And then if you want to support us monetarily, you can go to Substack. Substack.com/at Christianity Now. You can subscribe for $5 a month or $50 a year. That really helps us out. You can do nearchurches@gmail.com and send to PayPal. Or you can just do patreon.com/Christianity Now and do $1 a month, and that would really help us out. We need the support. we need to help grow the channel, and hopefully once we get monetization at the end of this month, hopefully we'll be able to do a whole lot more with videos, with we'll be looking at hiring some editors and stuff like that. So if you're interested in doing some one-off work, uh, as far as editing videos or putting stuff together, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to get you started. And we've already got one person that's helping us, and we're really thankful for the work that she does with the shorts and everything. And yeah, that's all I've got. God bless every one of y'all. This has been Tony Brewer with Cogitations. Like, subscribe, and share, all that good stuff. And yeah, Podbean, Apple Podcast, Spotify, TuneIn Radio. You can find the archived audio there. Until then, this is Tony Brewer with Cogitations. Be straightforward, plain spoken, speak right out of the front of your mouth, and we will catch you on the flip side.